The ink on the divorce papers was barely dry when Liam checked his Rolex, already mentally spending the money he thought he'd saved by cutting her loose. He looked at Isla with pure pity, seeing nothing but a quiet, broken woman walking away with nothing. He didn't notice the janitor in the back of the room, leaning on a mop, eyes sharp as diamonds. He didn't know that the woman watching him wasn't there to clean his mess, she was there to buy it. And she was about to turn his victory into a total nightmare. The conference room on the 45th floor of the Harrison & Partners law firm in downtown Manhattan smelled of expensive leather and impending doom. It was a cold, sterile room entirely made of glass and chrome, overlooking a city that looked like a circuit board from this height. Isla sat on one side of the mahogany table, her hands folded in her lap. She was wearing a simple beige cardigan that had seen better days, and her dark hair was pulled back in a loose, unassuming bun. She looked small against the backdrop of the towering skyline, exactly how her husband, Liam, liked her. Across from her, Liam adjusted his silk tie. It was a deep crimson, the same shade as the lipstick on the collar of the shirt he had thrown in the laundry hamper 2 days ago. He didn't even hide it anymore. Why would he? In his eyes, Isla was a nobody, a charity case he had picked up at a coffee shop 3 years ago. A pretty face with no family, no connections, and, most importantly, no prenup. "Let's speed this up, Arthur," Liam snapped, glancing at his lawyer, a man with a comb-over so severe it looked painful. "I have a reservation at Le Bernardin in an hour. Sophia hates waiting." Arthur, the lawyer, pushed the thick stack of documents toward Isla. He didn't even look her in the eye. "Mrs. Harrington, as discussed, this is a mutual separation agreement. You waive all rights to Mr. Harrington's assets, including the penthouse, the Hamptons estate, and his shares in Harrington Tech. In exchange, Mr. Harrington has graciously agreed to a one-time settlement of $20,000 to help you get back on your feet." $20,000. For 3 years of emotional abuse, for 3 years of hosting his dinner parties, cleaning up his drunken messes, and being paraded around as his humble trophy wife to soften his corporate shark image. Isla didn't blink. She reached for the pen. "Isla, babe," Liam said, his voice dripping with faux sympathy. He leaned forward, flashing the charming smile that had landed him on the cover of Forbes 30 Under 30. "Don't look so tragic. It's a lot of money for someone like you. You can rent a nice little studio in Queens. Maybe go back to school. Honestly, I'm doing you a favor. We're never cut out for this world." He gestured vaguely around the room, encompassing the high-rise view, the expensive suits, the power. Isla remained silent. She uncapped the pen. The scratching sound it made on the paper was rhythmic, hypnotic. Sign here. Initial here. Date here. Date here. In the back of the room, near the heavy oak doors, an older woman in a gray janitorial jumpsuit was slowly wiping down a glass cabinet. She had a mop bucket next to her and a cap pulled low over her eyes. "Excuse me," Liam barked, noticing the movement. "Can you do that later? We are in the middle of a private legal proceeding. Jesus, the help in this building is getting worse every year." The janitor stopped moving but didn't leave. She just turned her back slightly, continuing to polish the same spot on the glass. "It's fine, Liam," Isla said softly. It was the first time she had spoken since entering the room. Her voice was steady, lacking the tremble Liam had expected. "She's just doing her job. Let her be." Liam rolled his eyes. Always the bleeding heart. "That's why you'll never be rich, Isla. You care too much about people who don't matter." Isla finished the last signature. She set the pen down and pushed the papers back to Arthur. "It's done," she said. Arthur quickly snatched the papers, scanning them to ensure everything was in order. A shark-like grin spread across his face. "Perfect. The divorce will be finalized within 48 hours. Mr. Harrington, you are a free man." Liam let out a loud exhale, standing up and buttoning his suit jacket. "Finally. God, I feel 10 pounds lighter." He looked down at Isla, who remained seated. "Well, Good luck, Isla. Don't spend that 20 grand all in one place. And hey, if you ever need a reference for a housekeeping job, let me know. You were always good at cleaning up." He laughed at his own cruelty. Arthur chuckled along with him, packing his briefcase. Isla stood up slowly. She didn't look defeated. In fact, for the first time in years, she stood with her spine perfectly straight. She looked at Liam, her eyes dark and unreadable. "You're right, Liam," she said. "I was good at cleaning up. I cleaned up your image. I cleaned up your image. I cleaned up your reputation. But I'm done cleaning up your mistakes." Liam frowned, confused by her sudden change in tone. "What are you talking about? You're blabbering. Arthur, let's go." "Wait," a voice commanded from the back of the room. It wasn't a request, it was an order, cut from steel and wrapped in velvet. Liam and Arthur turned around. The janitor had turned to face them. She pulled the grey cap off her head, revealing a mane of silver-white hair, perfectly coiffed. She reached into the pocket of her oversized jumpsuit and pulled out a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, sliding them onto her nose. Liam's brow furrowed. "I told you to get out. Who the hell do you think you are?" The woman ignored him. She walked toward the table, her heavy work boots thudding against the carpet with a surprising authority. She stopped right next to Isla and placed a hand on Isla's shoulder. "She is my daughter," the woman said, her voice ice-cold. "And I believe you're sitting in my chair." The silence in the room was absolute. You could hear the hum of the air-conditioning unit, a low drone that seemed to amplify the sudden tension. Liam stared at the woman. He blinked, trying to process the information. "Your daughter?" He looked at Isla, then back at the woman in the janitor suit. Then he laughed, a harsh, barking sound. "Is this a joke? Isla, did you hire an actress? Is this some desperate attempt to get more money out of me? My mommy is here to save me." He turned to Arthur. "Get security up here. This is pathetic." Arthur reached for the phone on the conference table, but the woman's hands slammed down on the receiver before he could lift it. Her grip was iron. "Sit down, Arthur," she said, "unless you want to explain to the Bar Association why you facilitated a fraudulent prenup agreement based on hidden assets 3 years ago." Arthur froze. His face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about." "I think you do," the woman said. She unzipped the grey janitor jumpsuit. Underneath, she wasn't wearing rags. She was wearing a vintage Chanel suit, black tweed with pearl buttons, the kind of outfit that cost more than Liam's car. She tossed the jumpsuit onto the floor and took the seat at the head of the table, the seat usually reserved for the managing partner of the firm. "My name," she said, smoothing out her lapel, "is Regina Calloway. Does that ring a bell, Liam?" Liam's smirk vanished instantly. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. Calloway. In the world of New York real estate and global shipping, the name Calloway wasn't just a name. It was an institution. The Calloway Group owned half the docks in New Jersey, 3 skyscrapers in Midtown, and, rumor had it, held significant debt in several failing tech startups, including Harrington Tech. "No," Liam stammered. "That's impossible. She's nobody. She's from Ohio. Her parents were factory workers who died in a car crash, she told me." "I told you what you needed to hear to leave me alone about my past," Isla said quietly. She looked at her mother, a look of shared pain and understanding passing between them. "I wanted to be loved for me, Liam, not for my mother's checkbook. I wanted to see if you were capable of loving a woman who had nothing to offer you but her heart. And you failed that test spectacularly," Regina cut in. She pulled a folder from her Chanel bag. It wasn't a legal folder from her Chanel bag. It wasn't a legal folder, it was a dossier. "I've been watching you, Liam. For 3 years, I let Isla conduct her little experiment because I respect her autonomy. But I also did my due diligence." She slid a photo across the table. It was a picture of Liam meeting with a rival tech CEO, a man named Jackson Miller. "You've been trying to sell Harrington Tech to Miller Industries behind the board's back," Regina said. You're leveraging assets you don't fully own to cover your gambling debts in Macau. Oh yes, we know about the trips to the Wynn Palace. You're in the hole for about 12 million, aren't you? Liam was sweating now, profusely. That's private information. You can't. I can do whatever I want, Regina smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Because as of this morning, the Callaway Group acquired the majority debt of Harrington Tech from your creditors. I own your loans, Liam, which means, effectively, I own you. Liam slumped into his chair. He looked at Isla, his eyes pleading. Isla, baby, you knew? You knew this whole time? I didn't know about the debt, Isla said, her voice hard. But I knew who my mother was. I walked away from the Callaway fortune because I wanted a simple life. I thought I found it with you. I was happy to be a housewife, Liam. I was happy to make your coffee and iron your shirts, but you made me feel worthless every single day. I can change, Liam said, desperation creeping into his voice. He reached for Isla's hand, but she pulled it away as if he were on fire. Isla, please, we can tear up these divorce papers. We can start over. Now that I know we're equals. Isla laughed, a dry, humorless sound. We aren't equals, Liam. You just signed a document stating that I have no claim to your assets, but you forgot to ask if you had any claim to mine. Regina tapped a manicured fingernail on the table. The divorce papers are signed, Liam. They are legal and binding. You wanted her out of your life with nothing. You got your wish. She is leaving with nothing of yours. But, Regina continued, leaning forward, her eyes narrowing, you are currently sitting in my building. Harrison and Partners leases this office space from Callaway Commercial Properties. And I don't like the way you treat my tenants. Or my daughter. Regina looked at Arthur, the terrified lawyer. Arthur, get the eviction notice ready. I want Harrington Tech out of the 45th floor by midnight. Midnight, Liam screamed, standing up again. That's impossible. My servers are here, my entire operation. Then you better start packing, Regina said calmly. And Liam, that mistress of yours, Sophia, the one you're meeting at Le Bernardin. Liam went still. I believe she's currently at the Callaway Foundation Gala, Regina said, checking her phone. She's trying to secure a modeling contract with one of my subsidiaries. I'd hate for her to find out that her boyfriend is not only divorced and broke, but also about to be homeless. Isla stood up and picked up her cheap purse. She looked at Liam one last time. He looked small. Smaller than she had ever felt. Goodbye, Liam, she said. Enjoy your dinner. Isla turned and walked toward the door. Regina stood up, threw a withering look at Liam, and followed her daughter. Regina stood up, threw a withering look at Liam, and followed her daughter. As the heavy doors clicked shut, leaving Liam alone in the silent boardroom with the trembling lawyer, his phone buzzed. It was a text from Sophia. Where are you? I'm bored. And who is this old lady staring at me? Liam threw his phone against the glass wall. It shattered, much like his life was about to. The elevator ride down from the 45th floor was silent, but it was a heavy silence. The kind that presses against your eardrums. The chrome doors slid open in the lobby, and the world seemed to tilt. Isla walked out, her heels clicking on the marble floor, a sound she used to try and muffle so she wouldn't disturb Liam while he was working. Now she let them ring out. Outside, a sleek black Bentley Mulsanne was waiting at the curb, its engine purring like a large, dangerous cat. A driver in a pristine uniform held the door open. Home, madam? The driver asked, looking at Regina. The estate, Henry, Regina replied, sliding into the leather interior. She patted the seat next to her. Get in, Isla. You look like you're about to faint. Isla slid in. The door closed, shutting out the noise of New York City instantly. The car smelled of lavender and old money, the scent of her childhood. It was a scent she had run away from 3 years ago, trading it for the smell of Liam's cheap cologne and the stale air of their starter apartment. As the car merged into traffic, Regina pressed a button, raising the partition between them and the driver. She turned to Isla, her expression softening just a fraction. "You look terrible," Regina said, reaching out to tuck a strand of hair behind Isla's ear. "He really did a number on you, didn't he?" Isla looked out the tinted window, watching the city blur by. "I loved him, Mom. That's the stupid part. Even when he was signing those papers, part of me was waiting for him to look up and say it was all a mistake." "Love makes us stupid," Regina said, opening a hidden compartment and pouring 2 glasses of sparkling water. "Your father was the same. Charming, handsome, and utterly useless when it came to loyalty. But we aren't talking about men today. We are talking about men today. We are talking about survival." Regina handed Isla the glass. "You know why I bought his debt, Isla? It wasn't just to punish him. It was to remind you of who you are. You are a Calloway. We don't get discarded. We do the discarding." Isla took a sip. The water was cold, sharp. "I feel like a failure. I tried to make it on my own. I wanted to prove I didn't need the Calloway name to be happy. And look at me. Divorced, homeless, and back in my mother's car." "You're not a failure," Regina said firmly. "You conducted a field study on the nature of mediocrity, and you gathered your data. Now the experiment is over. It's time to get back to work. I have a board meeting on Thursday. I expect you there." Isla's eyes widened. "Mom, I can't. I haven't looked at the financial report in 3 years. I've been folding laundry and planning dinner parties." "Then you better start reading," Regina said, tapping the dossier on the seat between them. "Because Liam isn't going to go away quietly. Rats never do. When you corner a rat, it bites. And I need you to be wearing armor when he does." Meanwhile, 45 floors up, Liam Harrington was watching his life dismantle itself in real time. "Careful with that server," he screamed at a mover who was aggressively unplugging a rack of hard drives. "That data is worth more than your life." "Talk to the lady in the Chanel suit, pal," the mover grunted, not stopping. "She said everything out by midnight or it goes in the incinerator." Liam raked his hands through his hair. He felt like he was suffocating. He grabbed his cell phone. The screen cracked from when he threw it earlier. He dialed Sophia. Pick up, he hissed. "Hello." Sophia's voice was tinny, distracted. In the background he could hear the clinking of glasses and the hum of a string quartet. "Sophia, thank God. Listen, I'm in a bit of a bind. I need you to leave the gala. Come pick me up." "My cards. There's a hold on my cards. It's a bank error, obviously." There was a pause on the other end. "Liam?" "Oh. I heard about the divorce. And the eviction." "Word travels fast at these parties, sweetie. It's a misunderstanding," Liam lied, pacing around his emptying office. "Isla's mother is. She's psychotic. She's trying to scare me. But I have a plan. I just need to crash at your place for a few days until I mobilize my assets." Sophia laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "My place? Liam, my apartment is the size of a shoebox. And honestly, you're kind of killing my vibe right now. I'm talking to the vice president of Miller Industries. He's looking for a brand ambassador." "Miller?" Liam choked. "Jackson Miller? My competitor? Sophia, you can't be serious. Business is business, Liam. You taught me that. Business is business, Liam. You taught me that. Goodbye." The line went dead. Liam stared at the phone. He felt a scream building in his chest, a primal roar of rage. He had lost his wife. He had lost his company's home. He had lost his mistress. And he was about to lose his reputation. "Mr. Harrington." Liam spun around. Arthur, his lawyer, was standing by the door, clutching his briefcase like a shield. "What do you want, Arthur? Are you here to bill me for the hour you spent watching me get castrated?" I'm resigning, Liam," Arthur said, his voice trembling. "I can't go up against Regina Calloway. She'll have me disbarred by lunch tomorrow if I stay attached to you. I left your file on the desk." Arthur turned and fled before Liam could respond. Liam walked over to the desk. The file lay there, the divorce papers, the settlement agreement, the NDA. He stared at Isla's signature. It was neat, small, unassuming. Isla Calloway. He picked up a glass paperweight and hurled it at the wall. It smashed a framed photo of him and Isla from their wedding day, a photo he kept not out of love, but because it made him look like a family man to investors. "You think you've won?" he whispered to the empty room. "You think you can just play peasant for 3 years and then laugh at me from your ivory tower?" He pulled out his phone again and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. It rang 4 times before a gravelly voice answered. "Yeah, Lucas," Liam said, his voice dropping to a sinister low. "It's Liam. I need a favor. You still have those contacts in private investigation? The ones who don't ask about warrants? Depends on the pay, Harrington. I heard you're liquidating." "I have enough for this," Liam promised, though he wasn't sure where he'd get the money. "I need dirt, Lucas. I need you to dig into the past of Isla Calloway. Not the last 3 years. Before that, I want to know every boarding school she got kicked out of, every ex-boyfriend, every scandal her mother paid to cover up. I want to know why she ran away." "Calloways are protected," Lucas warned. "High security. Everyone has a crack in the armor," Liam snarled, watching the last of his office furniture disappear into the elevator. "Find it. And when you do, I'm going to use it to shatter her." 3 weeks later, the Hamptons estate of the Calloway family was buzzing with activity. The Calloway Summer Solstice was the event of the season, a fundraiser for oceanic conservation that doubled as a flexing of muscle for the East Coast elite. Isla stood in front of a floor-to-length mirror in her suite. The room was larger than the entire apartment she had shared with Liam. She looked at her reflection. The woman staring back was a stranger. Gone was the beige cardigan. Gone was the messy bun. Isla was wearing a structured emerald green gown that hugged her figure and trailed onto the floor like liquid money. Her dark hair was blown out in sleek Hollywood waves. Around her neck sat the Calloway emerald, a necklace rumored to have belonged to a Russian czarina. "You look dangerous," a voice said from the doorway. Isla turned. It was her mother. Regina was wearing a tuxedo suit, looking every bit the matriarch. "I feel like I'm wearing a costume," Isla admitted, touching the cold stones at her throat. "Is this really necessary? A grand re-entrance? Can't I just work in the back office?" "Hiding is what you did with Liam," Regina said, walking into the room and handing Isla a glass of champagne. "Tonight is about optics. The market knows Calloway Group bought Harrington debt. They are jittery. They think I'm emotional. They think I made a bad business move for family reasons. Tonight, you prove them wrong. You show them that you aren't a damaged divorcee. You are the heir. And if Liam shows up?" Isla asked, a flicker of fear in her eyes. "He's been calling. I blocked him, but he's leaving voicemails on the office line. He's threatening to sue for spousal support. He claims I defrauded him by not disclosing my wealth." Regina laughed, a short, sharp bark. "Let him sue. He signed a waiver. But he won't sue. He'll try to make a scene. That's his style. He's a narcissist. He needs the attention." Regina stepped closer, gripping Isla's shoulders. "If he shows up, you don't look away. You don't flinch. You look him in the eye, and you remember that you own the shirt on his back. Do you understand?" Isla took a deep breath. She thought about the nights she spent crying in the bathroom while Liam ignored her. She thought about the way he looked at her during the divorce like she was trash. Her eyes hardened. "I understand." Downstairs, the party was in full swing. The lawn was dotted with white tents, and a jazz band played softly near the infinity pool. Waiters circulated with trays of caviar and truffle arancini. Liam Harrington sat in a rented sedan parked a mile down the road. He was watching the live stream of the event on his phone. He looked haggard. He hadn't shaved in 3 days, and his suit was wrinkled. "You sure about this, boss?" Lucas asked from the driver's seat. Lucas was a thick-necked man with a scar running through his eyebrow. "Unsure," Liam muttered. He looked at the folder on his lap. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Lucas had found something. A psychiatric report from when Isla was 19. A brief stay at a wellness center in Switzerland. The diagnosis, acute anxiety and depressive episode triggered by familial pressure. It wasn't a crime. But in the cutthroat world of high-stakes business, unstable was a death sentence. If Liam could paint Isla as mentally incompetent, he could argue that she wasn't of sound mind when she signed the divorce papers. He could argue she needed a conservator him, or at least he could embarrass her enough that Regina would pay him millions just to go away. "Let's go," Liam said. "Drive up to the gate, I'm on the list." "You are?" Lucas asked, skeptical. "No," Liam smirked. "But Jackson Miller," Liam smirked. "But Jackson Miller is. And I stole his invite from his mailbox this morning." The ballroom was stiflingly warm, despite the ocean breeze. Isla stood by her mother, shaking hands with senators, CEOs, and socialites. She felt like a doll on display, but she played her part perfectly. "Charming as ever, Regina," said a senator from Vermont. "And Isla, it's good to see you back in the fold. We missed your spirit." "Thank you, Senator," Isla said, her smile tight. Suddenly, a hush fell over the room. The jazz band faltered and stopped. Voices murmured, creating a ripple of confusion that spread from the entrance. Isla turned. Liam was walking down the grand staircase. He wasn't supposed to be there. Security should have stopped him. But he was walking with a manic energy, holding a microphone he had likely snatched from the bandstand. "Ladies and gentlemen," Liam's voice boomed over the speakers, causing feedback to screech. People covered their ears. Regina stiffened. "Security," she hissed into her lapel mic. "Don't worry, I'm not staying," Liam shouted, reaching the bottom of the stairs. He spotted Isla and pointed a shaking finger at her. "I just wanted to congratulate my ex-wife, the fraud." The crowd gasped. Phones were raised instantly, recording. Liam marched toward them. "Look at her. The Princess of the Hamptons. You all think she's this poised, powerful woman? She's a mental case." He waved the papers in the air. "I have the proof. Switzerland, 4 years ago. She didn't leave because she wanted a simple life. She left because she cracked. She couldn't handle the pressure. And now she's back to play CEO. He turned to the crowd, his eyes wild. "She lied to me for 3 years. She pretended to be poor to trap me. And now she's trying to ruin me because I didn't want to be married to a psycho." Isla felt the blood drain from her face. The room was spinning. Everyone was staring at her. The whispers were starting. Is it true? Was she institutionalized? Regina stepped forward, her face a mask of fury. "Get him out of here, now!" 2 large security guards moved toward Liam, but he dodged them, fueled by adrenaline. He lunged toward Isla. "Tell them," Liam screamed. "Tell them how you cried every night. Tell them how weak you are." Isla didn't move back. Something inside her snapped. The fear she expected to feel wasn't there. Instead, there was a cold, quiet clarity. She stepped past her mother. "Stop," Isla said. She didn't shout, but her voice carried. She reached out and took the microphone from Liam's hand. He was so surprised by her proximity that he let go. Isla looked at the papers in his hand. Then she looked at the crowd. "My ex-husband is right," she said. The crowd went silent. Even Liam looked shocked. 4 years ago, I spent 2 months in a clinic in Zurich, Isla continued, her voice steady. I was 19. I was overwhelmed by the expectations of this life. I was depressed. I was lost. She looked at Liam, her eyes piercing him. I left this world to heal. I found a job as a barista. I rented a studio apartment. And I met a man who I thought loved me for who I was, not for what I could give him. She took a step closer to Liam. I didn't lie to trap you, Liam. I lied to protect myself from men like you. Men who see women as assets. Men who see vulnerability as a weakness to be exploited. She turned back to the crowd. Yes, I struggled with my mental health. And I survived it. I rebuilt myself. I signed those divorce papers to save myself from a man who abused me emotionally for 3 years. If that makes me weak in your eyes, then I don't want your respect." Isla paused. "But if survival makes me strong, then I suggest you all check your portfolios. Because as of this morning, Callaway Group has acquired Miller Industries." She looked at Liam, dropping the final bomb, which means, "Liam, I'm not just your ex-wife. I'm your boss's boss." The room erupted, not in whispers, but in applause. Liam stood there, mouth agape, the papers hanging loosely in his hand. He looked at the crowd, realizing he had miscalculated everything. He hadn't humiliated her, he had humanized her, and she had just bought the company he was trying to work for. "Get him out," Isla said to the guards, turning her back on him. As the guards dragged a screaming Liam away, Regina looked at her daughter. For the first time in her life, there was no criticism in her eyes, only pure, unadulterated awe. "Well," Regina whispered, "that was dramatic." Isla took a sip of her champagne, her hand not trembling in the slightest. "I learned from the best." The Motel 6 off the New Jersey Turnpike was a far cry from the penthouse overlooking Central Park. The neon sign outside buzzed with a dying flicker, casting a sickly red light into room 104. Liam sat on the edge of the sagging mattress, staring at the peeling wallpaper. It had been 2 weeks since the gala. 2 weeks of hell. The video of Isla destroying him on stage had gone viral. Team Isla was trending globally. Liam wasn't just broke. He was a pariah. No one would hire him. His credit cards were frozen. His car had been repossessed. There was a knock on the door. Not the polite knock of room service, but a heavy, authoritative thud. Liam scrambled up, panic rising in his chest. "I don't have the rent money yet. I told you I'm waiting on a wire transfer." The door opened. It wasn't the landlord. It was a man in a bespoke navy suit, flanked by 2 bodyguards who looked like they chewed gravel for breakfast. The man was older, perhaps in his 60s, with silver hair slicked back and a face that looked like it had been carved out of granite. He held a cane topped with a silver wolf's head. "Mr. Harrington," the man said. His voice was smooth, cultured, and terrifying. "You're a difficult man to find. You've fallen quite far from the 45th floor. Liam backed up against the wall. "Who are you? Did Regina send you?" "Tell her I have nothing left. She took it all." The man chuckled softly, stepping into the cramped room and wrinkling his nose at the smell of stale cigarettes. "Regina Callaway? No. I am not one of her lapdogs. In fact, Regina and I have historical differences." He extended a hand. "My name is Sebastian Cross. I own Cross Global Logistics. Perhaps you've heard of me." Liam's eyes widened. Cross Global was the only shipping conglomerate that rivaled the Callaway Group. For decades, Cross and Callaway had been locked in a cold war for control of the Atlantic trade routes. "I know who you are," Liam whispered. "Why are you here?" "Because," Sebastian said, using his cane to push a pile of dirty laundry off the only chair in the room before sitting down. "I hate waste. And right now, you are a wasted asset." "I'm a laughingstock," Liam spat bitterly. "Isla made sure of that." "Isla revealed your weakness," Sebastian corrected. "But she also revealed her own. You see, Liam, you lived with that woman for 3 years. You know her habits. You know her fears. You know her passwords. You know her passwords. You know the layout of the Callaway estate. And most importantly, you know that despite her tough act at the gala, she is still the fragile girl who ran away to Switzerland." Liam narrowed his eyes. "What are you proposing?" Sebastian signaled to one of the bodyguards, who placed a briefcase on the bed. He clicked it open. Inside were stacks of cash neat, crisp $100 bills. $50,000. "An advance," Sebastian said, "and a suite at the St. Regis. A new suit, a haircut. I need you to look like a winner again." Liam stared at the money. It was more than he had seen in months. And in return, Sebastian smiled, showing teeth that looked too white, you are going to help me destroy Regina Calloway. The Calloway Group is currently overextended. They spent billions acquiring Miller Industries and buying your debt. Their liquidity is low. They are vulnerable. I can't fight them legally, Liam said, his hand hovering over the cash. They have armies of lawyers. We aren't going to fight them in court, Liam. We are going to fight them from the inside. I need you to be my Trojan horse. Sebastian leaned forward, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. When you were married to Isla, she added you as an authorized user on a private server, the Family Trust server. It's separate from the company. It's where they keep the real dirt, the black book, the bribes to senators, the offshore accounts. She revoked my access, Liam said. The day of the divorce, she revoked your admin access, Sebastian corrected. But Callaway security protocols have a legacy flaw. If a user was added via biometric data, your fingerprint, it takes 30 days for the system to fully purge the biometric cache from the physical server room. You have. He checked his watch. 4 days left. You want me to break into the Callaway building? Liam asked, incredulous. No, the server isn't in the office. It's in the estate, in the Hamptons, in the panic room. Sebastian's eyes glinted. You lived there for a summer. You know where it is. You know the code to the panic room, don't you? Liam thought back. The Hamptons house. The panic room in the basement. Isla had shown it to him once, joking that it was where her mother went to drink wine when the stock market crashed. The code. Isla's birthday. I know it, Liam whispered. Good, Sebastian said, standing up. Get cleaned up, Mr. Harrington said, standing up. Get cleaned up, Mr. Harrington. Tonight we dine. Tomorrow we start the war. The storm arrived 3 days later, lashing the coast of Long Island with rain that hit the windows like bullets. Inside the Callaway estate, the mood was tense for a different reason. Easter was sitting in the library, surrounded by mountains of paperwork. The acquisition of Miller Industries was proving to be a nightmare. The books were cooked. There were millions in hidden liabilities that her due diligence team had missed. Regina was pacing by the fireplace, a glass of scotch in her hand. She looked tired. The invincible armor was showing cracks. It's a setup, Regina muttered. Jackson Miller wouldn't have sold easily if the company was healthy. Someone paid him to inflate the numbers before we bought it. Who? Isla asked, rubbing her temples. Who has that kind of money? Sebastian Cross. Regina spat the name like a curse. He's been trying to sink me since the 90s. He knew I'd buy Miller to prove a point to Liam. He played on my ego. And yours. Isla looked down. I just wanted to win, Mom. I wanted to show Liam he couldn't beat us. And you did, Regina sighed. But in war, every victory has a cost. Our cash reserves are drained. If the board finds out about the hidden debt in Miller Industries, the stock will tank. We could lose control of the group. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Just the storm, Isla said, though a shiver ran down her spine. The generator should have kicked in immediately, Regina frowned. She walked over to the wall intercom. Henry? What's the status on the power? Static. Then dead silence. Regina turned to Isla, her eyes sharp. That's not the storm. The phone lines are down. The internet is out. Mom, you're being paranoid, Isla started, but then she heard it. The faint sound of glass breaking from the east wing. The kitchen entrance. Regina didn't hesitate. She grabbed Isla's arm. Panic room. Now. What? Mom, seriously. Move! Regina's voice was a command that brooked no argument. She dragged Isla toward the hidden panel behind the bookshelf. They hurried down the narrow stone staircase into the basement level. The panic room was a steel-reinforced bunker designed to withstand a bomb blast. Regina punched in the code Isla's birthday, and the heavy steel door hissed open. They stepped inside. The room was lined with monitors, supplies, and a secure server rack that hummed quietly in the corner. Regina went straight to the monitors. Let's see who's in my house. She pulled up the security feed. The cameras in the hallway were grainy, switching to night vision. Isla gasped. Walking down the main corridor of their home wasn't a gang of masked thieves. It was Liam. He was soaking wet, wearing a black tactical turtleneck that looked ridiculous on him, but the gun in his hand looked very real. Behind him were two men professionals. Liam? Isla breathed. He has a gun. He's desperate, Regina said, her face pale. And he's not alone. Look at the insignia on the men's vests. Isla squinted. A small silver wolf. Cross, Regina hissed. He sent Liam to do his dirty work. If Liam gets caught, Cross denies everything if Liam succeeds. He sent Liam to do his dirty work. If Liam gets caught, Cross denies everything. If Liam, 60 said, succeeds in what? Isla asked. Killing us. No. Regina looked at the server rack in the corner of the room. He's here for that. The black drive. It contains the encrypted keys to every shipping lane we own. If Cross gets that, he can reroute our entire fleet. He can bankrupt us in an hour. He's coming this way, Isla said, watching the monitor. Mom, he knows where the panic room is. I showed him. I know, Regina said. She looked at the steel door. Change the code, Isla. Quickly. Isla rushed to the control panel inside the door. Her fingers hovered over the keypad. New code, dink. Sync. C punched in a new sequence, 42898. The date her father died. The day she learned to be tough. Beep. Locked. On the monitor, they watched Liam approach the bookshelf upstairs. He found the lever. The shelf swung open. He descended the stairs, the two mercenaries behind him. They reached the steel door. Liam smirked. He typed in the code. Buzz. Error. Liam's smile faded. He typed it again. Buzz. Error. He changed it, Liam shouted, his voice muffled through the steel but audible. Or she did. Open the door, Isla. I know you're in there. Isla pressed the intercom button. Go home, Liam, before the police get here. The police aren't coming, Liam yelled. We jammed the signals. There's no cell service, no landlines. You're all alone, babe, just like you left me. Regina stepped up to the mic. You're a fool, Liam. Sebastian Cross is using you. Once you give him that drive, do you think he's going to let you live? You're a liability. He treats me with respect, Liam screamed, slamming the butt of the gun against the steel door. Something you never did. Now open this door or we blow the hinges. It's military-grade steel, you idiot, Regina said coolly. You can't blow it. Watch me, Liam snarled. He stepped back. One of the mercenaries stepped forward. He placed a small, brick-like device on the seam of the door. Mom, Isla said, her voice trembling. Is that C4? Regina's face went grey. Cross really wants this drive. What do we do? Isla looked around the small room. There was no other exit. They were trapped. Regina looked at her daughter. For a second, the mask of the billionaire CEO fell away completely. Leaving just a mother, she reached into her pocket and pulled out a small USB driver copy of the black drive. Isla, Regina said softly. There is a ventilation shaft behind that supply cabinet. It's too small for me. But you can fit. No. Isla shook her head, tears welling up. I'm not leaving you. You have to, Regina insisted, grabbing Isla's shoulders. If they get in here, and they will want leverage. If they have me, they have the CEO. But if you have the drive, you have the power. You are the Callaway future. You have to survive. Boom. The explosion rocked the room. Dust rained down from the ceiling. The steel door groaned, warping inward, but holding. Just barely. They're setting another charge, Regina said, pushing Isla toward the cabinet. Go. Climb the shaft. It comes out in the greenhouse in the garden. Run to the neighbors. Get help. Mom, please. Go! Regina screamed, shoving the USB drive into Isla's hand. "Make them pay, Isla! Don't let him win!" Isla sobbed, pulling the cabinet aside. The vent was dark and narrow. She scrambled inside, the metal cold against her knees. She looked back one last time. Regina Calloway stood in the center of the panic room, smoothing her blazer, fixing her hair. She picked up a heavy iron poker from the emergency kit. She stood facing the warping door, ready to fight. "I love you," Isla whispered. "Run," Regina commanded. Isla shimmied up the shaft just as the second explosion hit. Crash. The door blew inward. Smoke filled the room. From her vantage point in the vent, looking down through the grate, Isla saw Liam step through the smoke, coughing. "Well," Liam sneered, pointing the gun at Regina. "Hello, mother-in-law. Where is she?" Liam looked around the small room. "Where is Isla?" "She's gone," Regina smiled, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. "And so is the drive." Liam's face twisted in rage. He struck Regina across the face with the pistol. She fell to the ground, unconscious. "Find her!" Liam screamed to the mercenaries. "She's in the vents. Find the girl. Kill her if you have to, but get that drive." Isla clamped her hand over her mouth to stifle a scream. She turned and crawled. She crawled faster than she had ever moved in her life. She wasn't crawling away from fear anymore. She was crawling toward revenge. They wanted a war. She was going to give them a massacre. The greenhouse smelled of wet earth and ozone. Isla kicked the metal grate off the ventilation shaft and tumbled onto the damp floor, gasping for air. Her emerald gown was torn, her knees scraped and bleeding. But she didn't feel the pain. She only felt the cold, hard drive clutched in her hand. Through the glass walls of the greenhouse, flashes of lightning illuminated the driveway. She saw them. The two mercenaries were dragging Regina's limp body toward a black, unmarked van. Liam was pacing frantically by the driver's side, shouting into a radio. Isla's first instinct was to run into the woods, to find the neighbors as her mother had ordered. But then she looked at the drive in her hand. If she ran, Liam would take her mother. If she ran, Sebastian Cross would win. "We do the discarding," her mother had said. Isla's eyes hardened. She didn't run away. She ran toward the main breaker panel hidden behind a row of orchids. This panel controlled the estate's smart garden features, including the security floodlights. She yanked the lever down. Click hip Instantly, the entire estate was bathed in blinding, stadium-quality white light. The sudden brightness was disorienting, turning the stormy night into an aggressive, sterile day. "Drop it," Isla screamed. Liam spun around, shielding his eyes against the glare. He saw a silhouette standing in the doorway of the greenhouse, rain lashing around her. "Isla!" he roared, his face twisted with a mix of relief and madness. He raised his gun. "Bring me the drive, now, or I put a bullet in your mother's head!" Isla stepped out into the rain. She held the small silver USB drive high above her head. "Let her go, Liam. You want this? Come and get it. Don't test me." Liam cocked the weapon, aiming it at Regina, who was groggily trying to stand. "You shoot her, and I snap this in half." Isla threatened, her voice cracking with adrenaline. "You'll have nothing for Cross, and he'll kill you for failing. You know he will." Liam hesitated. He knew she was right. He shoved Regina into the mud and ran toward Isla, his greedy eyes fixed on the silver stick. "Give it to me." Isla waited. She waited until he was 5 feet away, his chest heaving, the rain plastering his hair to his skull. Then she tossed the drive. It landed in a puddle between them. Liam scrambled for it, dropping his gun in his haste. He snatched the drive out of the mud, clutching it like a holy relic. "I got it. I won. I finally won." He pulled a ruggedized military tablet from his vest pocket to verify the data. Isla didn't move. She just watched him, a strange, pitying look on her face. "Did you?" Liam jammed the drive into the tablet. He expected to see shipping codes. Instead, a giant red skull flashed on the screen. System in breach, detet. Automated duplord initius. Avor tor nitius. What? Liam stared at the screen. What is this? That's not the black drive, Liam, Isla said, her voice cutting through the thunder. That's a honeypot. I switched them in the panic room while you were banging on the door. As soon as you plugged that in, you bypassed our firewall and sent a distress ping directly to the Department of Justice. Isla took a step closer. And the file it's uploading, it's not our shipping routes. It's a record of every bribe Sebastian Cross has paid in the last 10 years. My mother kept receipts. In the distance, the wail of sirens began to rise over the sound of the storm. Blue and red lights flickered at the main gate. Liam fell to his knees. The tablet slipped from his fingers. The victory he had chased was his own death warrant. He looked up at Isla, shivering, broken and small. You ruined me, he sobbed. Isla walked past him. She went to her mother, helping Regina stand up in the mud. She looked back at her ex-husband one last time. I didn't ruin you, Liam, she said softly. I just let you be yourself. The fallout was swift and brutal. Liam Harrington was arrested on the spot and later sentenced to 15 years for corporate espionage, kidnapping, and assault. His testimony, given in a desperate plea bargain, was the final nail in the coffin for Sebastian Cross, whose empire crumbled under federal indictment. Isla didn't fade back into the background. The following Monday, she walked into the Callaway Group headquarters, not as a visitor, but as the newly appointed CEO. Regina took the role of chairman, watching with pride as her daughter commanded the room. Isla never remarried. She didn't need to. She had found something far more valuable than a husband. She had found her voice. And everyone knew, from the mailroom to the boardroom, that you didn't mess with Isla Callaway. Did that ending satisfy your craving for karma? If you enjoyed seeing Isla take back her power and completely outsmart her toxic ex, please hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story. Let me know in the comments, do you think Liam deserved a harsher punishment, or was 15 years enough? I read every comment. Share this video with a friend who needs a reminder that the best revenge is massive success. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next story.